Have you ever wondered what would happen if every breath you took was supercharged? If the very air that gives us life could transform creatures into giants? I am the chrononaut. I drift through time, and today I want to share a memory of when our planet's atmosphere turned arthropods into monsters. Close your eyes, take a breath. We're jumping back to 320 million years ago. We arrive in an instant. The first sensation is the air itself. Each breath feels thick, almost effervescent, like breathing champagne. Oxygen levels hover at 35%. In your time, it's 21%. This hyperoxic atmosphere doesn't just fill your lungs. It saturates every cell, every tissue with energy. For vertebrates like us, it's exhilarating. Blood carries more oxygen, muscles work more efficiently, wounds heal faster. But for arthropods, it's transformative. I float above a Carboniferous swamp that stretches from horizon to horizon, an endless expanse of green and black. But this is no ordinary wetland. The trees, if you can call them that, are lycopsids, giant club mosses that tower 150 feet high. Their trunks, covered in diamond-patterned bark, rise like green columns from water black as oil. These aren't true trees in the modern sense. They're giant versions of tiny plants you might find in your garden, scaled up to impossible proportions by the rich atmosphere. Between the lycopsids grow tree ferns with fronds the size of your living room, each delicate leaflet perfectly formed despite the massive scale. Seed ferns carpet the forest floor where light penetrates, their reproduction still experimental, halfway between spores and true seeds. This is a world still figuring out how to be a forest, where evolution experiments with size and form in ways that will never be repeated. The humidity is oppressive, 100% at all times. Water drips constantly from every surface, a perpetual rain that never quite becomes a storm. The air shimmers with moisture and heat. This is a greenhouse world where the concepts of dry and cool haven't been invented yet. The global climate is warm and stable, with no ice caps at the poles, no seasonal variation worth mentioning. Every day is hot, wet, and oxygen-rich. The soundscape is alien. No birds sing. They won't exist for another 150 million years. No mammals chitter or howl. They're not even a possibility yet. Instead, the air vibrates with the drone of insect wings. Some pitch so low, they're felt rather than heard. The splash of water as something large moves. The creak and groan of giant plants swaying in the thick air. And underneath it all, a rustling, clicking, scuttling that never stops. The sound of 1 million arthropods living their hyper-oxygenated lives. Then I see my first monster. Crawling up a lycopsid trunk is an Arthropleura, a millipede, but not as you know them. This creature stretches 8 feet long and 2 feet wide, its body armored in overlapping plates that gleam like polished coal. Each of its 30 segments bears legs as thick as your arm, moving in waves that ripple down its length. As it climbs, its weight causes the massive tree to sway, bark cracking under the pressure of its grip. In your world, arthropods are limited by their breathing system. They don't have lungs like vertebrates. Instead, oxygen diffuses through tubes called tracheae, a network of passages that branch ever finer, like an inverted tree made of air. This works beautifully when you're small, but physics imposes harsh limits on size. Double an arthropod's dimensions, and oxygen can't penetrate deep enough to keep the inner tissues alive. The system that makes insects so successful also caps their growth. But with 35% oxygen, those limits shatter. The higher concentration creates a steeper diffusion gradient, driving oxygen deeper into tissues. The increased atmospheric pressure, about 1.6 times modern levels, helps even more. Suddenly, the tracheal system can support bodies measured in feet, not inches. Evolution, never one to miss an opportunity, runs with it. The Arthropleura reaches a junction of branches and stops. Its antennae, each 4 feet long, sweep the air in slow arcs. It's sensing vibrations, chemical traces, the bioelectric fields of potential threats. Its head, such as it is, bears compound eyes with thousands of facets, each detecting motion independently. The processing power required to integrate all this sensory data would challenge a modern computer. Finding no threats, it begins to feed, using mandibles like garden shears to strip bark from the tree. The sound is industrial, a rhythmic crunching that echoes through the swamp. Strips of bark 3 feet long peel away and fall into the water below. The millipede is a living wood chipper, processing plant matter with an efficiency that would make modern recycling plants envious. This isn't random destruction. The Arthropleura targets specific areas where the bark is richest in nutrients, where fungal growth provides protein supplements. It's farming as much as foraging, encouraging the growth of its preferred food sources. Each tree in its territory bears the characteristic spiral scars of its feeding, wounds that take years to heal in the hypergrowth environment. Movement in the canopy catches my attention. At first, I think it's a bird. The silhouette has wings, moves with that distinctive darting motion. But birds won't exist for another 150 million years. This is Meganeura, a dragonfly with a wingspan of 30 inches. Each wing a masterpiece of engineering that modern aircraft designers still study. It hovers with mechanical precision, wings beating in figure-8 patterns too fast to see clearly. The sound is a deep hum that resonates in your chest. Its head, dominated by compound eyes the size of tennis balls, can rotate almost 360 degrees. Each facet of those eyes tracks movement independently, creating a visual field that covers nearly every direction simultaneously. In the hyperoxic atmosphere, its flight muscles can sustain efforts that would be impossible in your time. The physics of its flight shouldn't work at this scale. In your world, dragonflies this size would tear their wings apart from the stresses. But the Carboniferous atmosphere is denser, providing more lift and cushioning. The high oxygen content means flight muscles never fatigue. It's not just a scaled-up modern dragonfly. It's been redesigned from first principles for giant aerial predation. The Meganeura has spotted prey, a proto-cockroach the size of a small dog, scuttling across a tree fern. This isn't your kitchen pest, but an armored tank of an insect, covered in overlapping plates that would deflect a sword strike. Its antennae, constantly moving, haven't detected the threat above. In the Carboniferous, danger comes from all directions. The hunt begins. The dragonfly's acceleration is shocking. It covers 50 feet in under a second, banking between tree trunks with fighter jet precision. Its flight path is pure mathematics, calculating intercept vectors, while compensating for air resistance and its own massive inertia. Its legs, evolved into a forward-facing capture basket, snap shut around the roach in mid-flight with an audible crack. The prey's chitinous shell, thick enough to turn a modern sword, cracks like an eggshell under the predator's grip. The Meganeura's legs are hydraulic presses, concentrating the force of its flight muscles into points smaller than needle tips. It doesn't need venom. Physics is weapon enough. But the roach doesn't die easily. Even with its shell cracked, it fights, mandibles snapping at its attacker's legs. The aerial battle is brief but vicious. They tumble through the air, the dragonfly's wings beating frantically to maintain control. Finally, the Meganeura finds the weak point where the roach's head meets its thorax. One precise bite severs the main nerve cord. The dragonfly carries its prize to a favorite perch, a horizontal branch polished smooth by countless previous meals. It feeds methodically, using mandibles like surgical tools to extract the soft tissues. Nothing is wasted in this ecosystem. What it doesn't eat falls to the water below, where it's immediately set upon by aquatic scavengers. But the swamp holds more terrors than giant insects. In the water below, something stirs the coal-black surface. Ripples spread in concentric circles, too regular to be wind-driven. A dome of armored segments emerges. A Eurypterid, a sea scorpion that has adapted to fresh water. This one is modest by Eurypterid standards, only 6 feet long, but it's still an apex predator in these waters. Its body plan is elegance itself. 8 legs for walking on the bottom or swimming with equal ease. 2 forward claws, each the size of baseball gloves, that could crush bone if bones existed in anything large enough to be worth hunting. A flexible tail tipped with a venomous spike the length of your forearm. And eyes. 2 large compound eyes for detail, 6 smaller ones for motion detection, giving it nearly spherical vision. The scorpion moves with deliberate patience, each step calculated. It breathes through book gills, an ancient system that works equally well in water or humid air. This amphibious capability gives it access to prey in multiple environments. It's as comfortable hunting in 2 inches of water as in 20 feet. I follow the Eurypterid as it hunts. Its prey today is an early amphibian, one of the first vertebrates to colonize land. The amphibian, about 3 feet long, rests on a partially submerged log. It's an ungainly creature, still more fish than tetrapod, with limbs barely capable of supporting its weight. Its skin must stay moist, confining it to the water's edge. The Eurypterid has been tracking it for an hour, reading chemical trails in the water with sensors along its legs. It knows the amphibian's routine, where it feeds, where it rests, when it's most vulnerable. Patience is a survival trait in predators that can go months between meals. The strike comes from beneath. Water explodes as the scorpion lunges upward, its entire body launching from the bottom. One claw closes around the amphibian's midsection with hydraulic force. The prey tries to leap away, but moves too slowly in the thick air, its primitive lungs already struggling with the effort. The stinger curves forward in a perfect arc, puncturing the amphibian's primitive lung with surgical precision. The venom is a cocktail of neurotoxins and hemolytic compounds refined over millions of years. In seconds, the amphibian's nervous system shuts down, paralysis spreading from the injection site. Its blood cells begin to dissolve, turning its circulatory system into soup. But death doesn't come quickly. The Eurypterid's venom is designed to preserve, not kill outright. The scorpion retreats to deeper water, carrying its paralyzed but still living prey. It will feed for hours, possibly days, dissolving the amphibian's tissues with digestive enzymes injected through the same stinger that delivered the venom. The prey will be conscious for much of this, its primitive brain unable to process the horror, but certainly capable of feeling pain. This is the horror of Carboniferous predation. Death comes slowly in a world where everything is armored, venomous, or both. Quick kills are a luxury evolution hasn't invented yet. Energy is too precious, prey too well defended. Better to disable and dissolve than to risk a fight. As night falls, and in the Carboniferous, it falls like a hammer with no twilight to speak of. New terrors emerge. The darkness is absolute. No moon brightens the sky. It's still too close to Earth. Its orbit too fast to provide consistent illumination. Stars are visible, but their light barely penetrates the thick canopy. This is darkness as a physical presence. I hear them before I see them. A rustling like 1,000 newspapers being crumpled. The sound comes from everywhere and nowhere. A susurrus of movement that makes the daylight activity seem calm by comparison. The night shift is awakening. Then I see the source, emerging from burrows, from under logs, from crevices in the bark, come horrors that make the daytime predators look almost reasonable. Spiders the size of dinner plates, their 8 eyes glowing with reflected starlight. Centipedes 4 feet long with venomous fangs that glow faintly in the darkness. Phosphorescent bacteria creating a warning display. Scorpions, true scorpions, not their aquatic cousins, with stingers that drip venom luminescent with similar bacteria. One spider captures my attention. It's not the largest, only 18 inches across, but it's an engineer of the highest order. In the gap between 2 tree ferns, it weaves a web of silk cables as thick as your fingers. The construction would impress modern architects. The spider tests each anchor point, plucking strands to check tension, adjusting with mathematical precision. It knows the resonant frequencies of different prey, tuning its web like a musical instrument. When complete, the web spans 15 feet. A deadly harp strung between the trees. It's not meant for flying prey. Few things fly at night in the Carboniferous. Instead, it's a gill net for climbing arthropods, positioned along a known travel route. The silk is proportionally stronger than steel cable, and sticky with adhesive that won't dry out in the perpetual humidity. Each strand can stop a charging millipede. Within minutes, the trap claims its first victim, a primitive grasshopper the size of a house cat. It hits the web at full jump, its powerful hind legs having launched it directly into disaster. It sticks instantly, and its struggles only entangle it further. The web is designed to convert kinetic energy into binding force. The harder you fight, the tighter it holds. The spider, feeling the vibrations through specialized organs in its legs, moves with disturbing grace across its creation. It reads the web like braille, each vibration telling it the size, location, and struggle intensity of its prey. 8 eyes reflect the moonlight as it approaches, creating a constellation of malevolent stars. Fangs the length of your index finger unfold from its chelicerae. These aren't simple puncture tools but complex injection systems, with muscles that can vary the pressure and volume of venom delivered. The injection is precise, right into the grasshopper's main nerve cluster, identified by the spider through years of hunting experience. Paralysis is instant but incomplete. The grasshopper can't move its legs, can't escape, but it remains conscious. This is deliberate. The spider begins wrapping its prey in silk, and the movements stimulate the production of stress hormones that will flavor the meat. Then begins the slow liquefaction of internal organs that passes for digestion in the spider world. The grasshopper will be aware for most of this process. The science behind these monsters is elegantly simple. Oxygen is the limiting factor for arthropod size. Their respiratory system, passive diffusion through spiracles and tracheae, works by the inverse square law. Double the size, quadruple the oxygen need, but the diffusion rate only increases linearly. It's a mathematical wall that can't be climbed. At 21% oxygen, physics caps arthropod size at about 6 inches for efficient function. Larger than that, and the innermost tissues start to suffocate. But at 35%, that same system can support creatures measured in feet, not inches. Add the higher atmospheric pressure of the Carboniferous, about 1.6 times modern levels, and you have a perfect recipe for gigantism. But size comes with costs. These giants are prisoners of their atmosphere. They can't migrate to regions with different oxygen levels. They can't survive temporary drops during volcanic winters. When oxygen levels begin to drop at the Permian boundary, they'll suffocate in air that smaller descendants will breathe easily. The monsters of the Carboniferous are evolution's experiment in pushing physical limits. An experiment that will end in mass extinction. The metabolic demands are staggering. An Arthropleura must eat almost constantly, processing hundreds of pounds of plant matter daily. A Meganeura burns through calories so fast, it must hunt successfully every few hours or starve. The giant spiders can go longer between meals, but when they do feed, they must extract every possible calorie. There's no room for waste in bodies pushed to the thermodynamic limits. Yet for 60 million years, they rule. This is their world, where a butterfly can hunt like an eagle, where millipedes grow longer than cars, where scorpions challenge the first amphibians for dominance. It's a success story written in chitin and measured in megatons of processed plant matter. The ecosystem they create is unlike anything before or since. The giant arthropods are ecosystem engineers on a massive scale. Arthropleura creates highways through the swamps, paths that become streams that become rivers. Their feeding keeps the lycopsids from choking each other out, maintaining forest diversity. Their droppings, produced in prodigious quantities, create rich soil layers that will eventually become coal seams. Meganeura and its fellow aerial predators create the first complex aerial food webs. They don't just hunt, they're hunted by each other, creating an arms race of flight capabilities that pushes the boundaries of what's possible with exoskeletons and wings. Their territorial battles, conducted at speeds that make modern dragonflies look sluggish, establish the patterns of competition that all future flyers will follow. The giant spiders transform predation itself. Their webs don't just catch prey, they reshape entire forest sections, creating no-go zones that other creatures learn to avoid. The architecture of the Carboniferous forest is partly determined by where the giant spiders choose to build. Their silk, produced in quantities that would supply modern textile industries, creates a secondary canopy beneath the trees. As dawn breaks over the swamp, a slow brightening rather than a sunrise, the thick atmosphere scattering light, I witness one final scene that encapsulates this alien ecosystem. A Meganeura dragonfly, exhausted from a night of hunting, rests on a tree fern frond. Its wings, gossamer sheets that shimmer with rainbow iridescence, are spread to catch the first warming rays. Dew has condensed on them overnight, and the weight is significant at this scale. An Arthropleura millipede, following its own inscrutable arthropod logic, climbs the same tree. 8 feet of armored segments flow up the trunk like a chitinous river. Each leg placement is calculated for maximum grip, the creature's nervous system solving equations of balance and leverage with every step. The tree groans under its weight, but holds. Lycopsids evolved with giant climbers in mind. The dragonfly senses the vibrations through the plant, its legs detecting movement patterns that spell giant millipede approaching. In your world, it would fly away immediately. But flight at this scale requires preparation. The wings must be dried, flight muscles warmed to operating temperature. The dragonfly is vulnerable, but the millipede isn't hunting. These giants are herbivores, their terrifying size dedicated to processing plant matter. It's aware of the dragonfly. Its antennae sweep past within inches, certainly detecting the predator's presence. But Arthropleura has no reason to care. It's too large for the dragonfly to hunt, and it poses no threat in return. They share the tree for several minutes, predator and giant herbivore, each preparing for its day. The millipede continues upward to its favorite feeding spot. The dragonfly finally achieves flight temperature and lifts off with a sound like a helicopter. Neither creature acknowledges the other beyond basic awareness. In a world of giants, size creates its own detente. This scene, mundane by Carboniferous standards, but impossible in any other period, illustrates the unique nature of this time. It's not just that arthropods are giant, it's that gigantism has become normal, integrated into every aspect of the ecosystem. The trees expect giant climbers. The ground is sculpted by massive footfalls. The air resonates with the wing beats of insects that would be dragons in your world. But I also see the signs of coming doom. In certain areas, the oxygen levels fluctuate slightly, down to 33%, up to 37%. The giants in these zones show stress. Arthropleura moves more slowly when oxygen drops. Meganeura hunts less efficiently. The tolerances are narrow, and the first volcanic winter that drops oxygen significantly will begin a cascade of extinctions. The Carboniferous giants are evolution's moonshot, an attempt to see how large arthropods can grow when atmospheric conditions are perfect. The answer is magnificent and terrifying. But perfection never lasts. In the Permian, oxygen levels will crash to 15%, lower than your modern atmosphere. The giants will suffocate, leaving only fossils to hint at their grandeur. Their descendants will be small, efficient, adapted to the new normal, but they'll carry hidden potential in their genes. The blueprints for gigantism, waiting for oxygen to rise again. It never will, at least not to Carboniferous levels. The age of giant arthropods is a one-time experiment, never to be repeated. Feel yourself returning now, the oxygen thinning, sizes shrinking, time accelerating beneath us. We're back in your present, where the largest insects fit in your palm, where breathing doesn't make monsters. The dragonflies in your garden are perfect miniatures of their Carboniferous ancestors, flying with the same precision but at a manageable scale. The millipedes under your logs process leaves instead of trees. The spiders in your corners weave webs measured in inches, not yards. When you see these creatures, remember their heritage. In their genes lie dormant instructions for gigantism, suppressed only by atmospheric chemistry. They're not primitive survivors, but precisely adapted descendants, shaped by the memory of when size mattered and oxygen was abundant. The atmospheric composition that created those monsters could theoretically return. Your climate models show that rapid plant growth, like massive algae blooms in warming oceans, could spike oxygen levels, not to 35%. That would take millions of years of specific conditions. But even a rise to 25% would begin to lift the size restrictions. In laboratories, insects raised in enriched oxygen grow larger, following the ancient equations. Consider what a world with even slightly larger arthropods would mean. A 25% increase in size might seem modest, but it follows exponential scaling laws. A spider 25% larger has 56% more volume, nearly double the venom capacity, and significantly more powerful muscles. A wasp that size could penetrate clothing that currently provides protection. The entire relationship between humans and arthropods would shift. The Carboniferous also teaches us about atmospheric tipping points. The rise to 35% oxygen didn't happen overnight. It took millions of years of plant evolution, particularly the development of lignin in tree bark that decomposer organisms couldn't break down. Dead trees accumulated, locking away carbon and releasing oxygen. Once the decomposers evolved to handle lignin, oxygen levels crashed, and the giants died. We live in a similar moment of atmospheric change, though we're altering carbon rather than oxygen. The lessons of the Carboniferous apply. Atmospheres can shift dramatically. Size and survival are linked to chemistry, and what seems permanent can vanish in geological moments. The giant arthropods ruled for 60 million years, far longer than mammals have existed, yet they left only fossils and evolutionary echoes. The swamps that created them became the coal deposits that fuel your civilization. Every time you use electricity from a coal plant, you're burning the compressed remains of Carboniferous forests, releasing carbon captured when giants walked the earth. In a very real sense, the monsters of the past power the present, their bodies transformed into the energy that lights your cities. Next time you complain about a spider in your bathroom or a cockroach in your kitchen, be grateful for 21% oxygen. Be grateful that physics keeps the monsters small. And remember that every arthropod you see carries the genetic memory of when their ancestors ruled the world, when oxygen made monsters, and when a dragonfly could look you in the eye. Until we meet again in the streams of time, this has been a memory from the Chrononaut.